these colors. These are the new colors. Flirtatious, not that one, and Blood Moon. Those are the new colors. And then I've got all these other ones, which are the older colors. Cherry Picked, French Millinery, and these are the Painterlies. All these colors maybe, but definitely the two new ones. And I'm gonna try to recreate Debbie's promo photo. I'm gonna try to recreate it with what I've got here. I'm gonna do it on this, which you can't see very well. It's a really big jewelry box. Here. It's a really big jewelry box. Lingerie cabinet, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's got the sides that open for all your necklaces, your rings. It's for someone that has a lot of jewelry. So we're gonna take this very yellow, very early 90s decoration on it, and we're going to get as close as we can to Debbie Beard's Blood Moon piece. Wish me luck. There's nothing really wrong with this piece, so I don't need to repair it. All the drawers are great. You know, it's just MDF. Nothing fancy. So here's my inspo, my inspiration photo, and I'm gonna try to replicate that. Some people are gonna cringe because I'm painting over the beautiful hand-painted flowers. My customers didn't like it, so it's gonna get painted over. So you can see my base coat is not a uniform color. It is a mixture of the Kissing Booth and vintage linen, and I don't have a, you know, it's still swirly in there, so you can still see both colors, and that's why I always call it a sloppy first coat, because it's sloppy. It doesn't really matter, because usually the painting techniques that I do, this all will be hidden and you won't see it. Basically, I'm just getting one coat on the whole thing so I can begin to add the colors of my finished project. And this just gives me a nice base coat to add the new colors. It'll stick really good to it. It's complementary of the end project. So if some of it does show through, it's gonna blend in. It's not gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Like if I used green underneath, wild green and pink look good together, it might not look very good when you see some green poking in the design that I'm going to do. So think about your end project, unless you have enough paint. If you have enough paint to use one of your colors, then go for it. But I'm always trying to think, what do I have on hand that I need to use up before it dries up? And when I say sloppy, I also mean I go in random. It's a random pattern. So this paint's nice and thick with the clay in it, so it's going to give you a texture. If you use a natural bristle brush, you know, one that looks like thin straw, you're gonna get a better texture than if you use a synthetic brush that's nice and smooth, you know, more like a makeup brush type of texture. And there's that.
Now I'm coming in with a synthetic brush and I'm stippling on the darker blood moon color here and there in the little crevices of the details, and I'll continue to put it on the piece as I want. Now the piece that I used for inspiration, it took a turn at some point and I ended up creating just my own piece that doesn't look anything like the original inspiration. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Now you'll see me using my mister. When you're using water, make sure that you don't put too much on, because DIY paint will reactivate. You will begin to peel paint off and reveal the original paint on your piece, and you don't want to do that. So just lightly mist, lightly brush until you get the desired effect that you want. I encourage you to play. Playing with color. It helps you experiment. Don't be worried if you ruin it. It's just paint, and you can paint it again. Today I'm going to tell you the story of how I became a DIY paint retailer. When I had my store in Independence, I had a vendor who refinished furniture. While I was doing the same thing, I was doing it how most people do it, which is go to Home Depot, buy some paint, and then add my chalk-like substance to it to create a chalk-like finish. Well, she was using a clay-based paint, which really intrigued me. And she had the local retailer for that paint come and do a class at our store. I was able to join in on that class, and I gotta say it was a wealth of information, really. Even though I'd been painting furniture for a few years, she opened the door for some new techniques, especially with this clay paint. Things that you couldn't do with latex paint, you could do with this clay-based paint. She encouraged everyone in the class to go subscribe to Debbie's Design Diary on YouTube. And I did. And I loved her. She was entertaining and she taught me new things that I never even thought of. Fast forward that to, I continued to follow her for years, and then she developed her own line of paint. I couldn't afford to dive in at that point. But when I could, I did. I applied to be a retailer. At that point, I was down in the West Bottoms, refinishing furniture all the time, and I was lucky enough to be accepted. So I've been a DIY paint retailer since March of 2017, and the rest is history. I gotta tell you, it's one of the best business decisions I've ever made. She is a joy to work with, really. She's a wealth of information and happy to share it with everyone. She's also a store owner and a booth renter, so she can tell you the ins and outs of all those kinds of businesses. I've been adding layers of paint to get to the overall look that I end up with. It's layers upon layers and upon layers. It just creates depth and more interest in a piece. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Just hit the subscribe button to get an alert.